What's going on, everyone? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to talk about a very important One Piece topic that needs to be addressed, and that is Loki Uranus? I know what you thought I was going to say. So without further ado, let's get into it, boys! The first time we are introduced to Uranus is when Nico Robin is talking to King Neptune in chapter 650. King Neptune explained to Robin that for whatever reason during this time, there existed 3 great weapons with power enough to destroy the world. We know today that the weapon that he is referring to is his daughter, Shirahoshi, better known as the Ancient Weapon Poseidon. Now, before we actually dive into everything that Loki is capable of, as well as the Ancient Weapon Uranus, let's take a moment to dissect what Poseidon is and what Poseidon is capable of. Poseidon is a legendary person who is capable of controlling sea kings, okay? Shirahoshi has an inherited ability that's passed down from generations, a name that's been given to her to match the ability through generations. For all intents and purposes, without the ability, Shirahoshi is just a large mermaid girl. But King Neptune knows that Shirahoshi is destined to have the ability to destroy the world if she so chooses. Likewise, Harold knows that Loki will be incredibly powerful one day, regardless of if he eats the legendary devil fruit or not. Right now, I hope you're thinking a little bit about what it takes to be an ancient weapon. Because right around this time, you're probably thinking, but Mars, what about Pluton? Pluton is a battleship. And we know this because Frankie had the blueprints for the battleship. And also, I thought that Uranus was a giant floating weapon that destroyed Lelouchia. What if I told you these were all lies, and I can prove it to you in a very, very easy way? You see, there's a record-keeping system in One Piece. There's a record-keeping system that tells you the tales of the past as well as the future, an imitation, if you will, of art. And that is called technology. You see, technology in the world of One Piece is a weapon. It is a weapon that people often forget about, but every time it rears its ugly head, it is amazing. Whether it's Queen using his viruses in Wano, whether it's Sanji and his genetic invisibility. Technology in One Piece is both powerful and used oftentimes to replicate another existing ability that is naturally occurring in real life. A perfect example of this we see are the artificial sea kings that the world government made using Vegapunk's technology. And so when we look at what the world government tries to imitate, it tries to imitate power. It tries to imitate things like the giants, things like ancient weapons. And how do we know this? We know this because Vegapunk is currently trying to imitate Poseidon's ability, the Sea Kings. We know that Caesar's main goal in life was to create a giant serum to imitate the giants, which is very strange because Emu can do that. He can gigantify people as well as turn them into his own pawns. So either the world government is trying to create technology that imitates Emu, or technology that imitates the giants. And so we have to ask ourselves this, right? What does the world government trying to imitate the ancient weapons look like? Well, if I was going to try to imitate Poseidon, I would try to create fake sea kings to combat her real sea kings. If I was going to try to imitate Pluton, I would get with Frankie and ask to make a fake ship. But if I was going to try to imitate Uranus, I guess I would need an aerial combat system that could stay in the air forever. So I would ask Vegapunk to create a mother flame for my whatever the world government has up there, but I believe that to be an imitation. Using the mother flame and using whatever weapon they have floating around in the sky, they are imitating Uranus. Now, before we start talking about Pluton and how Pluton's a ship and how no one believes it's a person, let's talk about what you clicked on this video for. Why Loki is Uranus and why I believe he will inherit the will to conquer the skies. In the most recent chapter of One Piece, we see King Harold talking to Neptune about their children getting together. Now that's spicy. But we've seen stranger couples, and they're talking about how their children are going to be these absolute mad lads one day. Shirahoshi is going to destroy the entire world, and Loki's going to do the exact same thing. Now, during this time, they are referring to Shirahoshi as Shaggy or Mosa Mosa, meaning like hairy, because King Neptune is very hairy. When we meet Loki, he has a friend named Mosa. Why would Shirahoshi be communicating with Loki? Well, it's because their parents are good friends. Is the person on the other end of the communication device Shirahoshi? We don't know, but it's a good bet to say that it possibly could be. Now, this will be further confirmed in the anime when we get the voice for Mosa, but I believe it's going to be Shirahoshi. So we've got two ancient weapons that potentially will love each other by the end of the series. That sounds amazing. But what is Uranus? What are his abilities? Well, let's take a look at it historically. Now, in Greek mythology, Uranus is known as the father of the heavens, the skies themselves, and he has children with Gaia. Those children being the Titans, Cyclops, and those Titans would go on to birth the gods themselves that we know, such as Zeus and Apollo and so on and so forth. Now, if you ask me, what does that sound like in the world of One Piece, I would tell you that's more than likely something that can control the weather or at least have lightning strike from the skies. I mean, you'd figure, right? Maybe it's even something like, oh, I can control giant birds like Saint Mars. Now, if you don't know, Saint Mars is a giant bird. He's one of the Gorosei. Maybe there are other giant creatures like him that Uranus can control. But I would go ahead and say this. While the world government does see the ancient weapons as something that can destroy an entire island in a second, we know the ancient weapons to be something a little bit different. Shirahoshi can destroy an island in a second, but that's not really what her power is about. And I'm willing to bet that Uranus's power as well is not about destroying an entire island just because it can. No, I believe that is propaganda pushed by the world government, and that there is no 3 secret weapons. There's only 3 deities or inherited wills being passed down to 3 different people who are capable of great things. That or their gods themselves. So let's take a look at the god that Oda made, Loki. Loki is a name from Norse mythology. Loki is the son of Odin. He is the brother to Thor, who is the god of thunder. Oda, I believe, is putting a spin on this character by giving Loki, the brother of Thor, Thor's hammer. We see Loki smash the Atom Tree and lightning strike down and everyone freak out, and everyone says that Loki has the power to destroy the world. But that initial lightning bolt comes from the skies. Now we are currently learning that the hammer may have a devil fruit from the most recent chapter of One Piece, but as of right now, I'm going to say that even though that is the case, Loki may still have his own abilities, okay? And that's because, as I previously established, Loki has the ability passed down that is Uranus. It's separate from a devil fruit. It's separate from however Oda is trying to perceive Loki as this conglomeration of Thor and Loki from Norse mythology. Uranus is going to be something completely different, an ability that none of us saw coming, okay? The good news about that is that Loki, the character, he can have every other ability. He can have a devil fruit. He can have a weapon with a devil fruit. He can be a giant. He can be a demon. He can be worse, and he can be a straw hat. But the ability of Uranus, that is going to be something that when Loki himself dies, he will pass on. And that brings me to my final point, Pluton. Because I know a lot of you guys are sitting around thinking, but Mars, Pluton is a battleship. So your whole theory goes up in smoke, because if Pluton is a battleship, then clearly only certain ancient weapons are passed down. I will say that that is not true because of Zunisha. Zunisha is a giant walking elephant that was sentenced to roam the earth for some mistake that we're still not sure what they committed. The point is that a giant creature is capable of inheriting a will, of inheriting a mission. And I believe that Pluton may in fact be a giant creature similar to Zunisha. I don't think that Pluton is a giant elephant. I think that Pluton may be either whatever hides in the Florian Triangle or a giant turtle. I will take a giant turtle. I think that it makes a ton of sense for Pluton to be a giant turtle and carry Wano the same way Zunisha carries Zoe. I think that as we get more towards the end of the story, Oda is unveiling these large giant monsters. Even in the most recent chapter, Oda was talking about the Florian Triangle monsters. Now, he referenced Herald, but we as readers know that there's something even bigger than Herald lurking in the Florian Triangle. And I think that whatever these giant creatures are that are lurking all around the world, Uranus potentially can control, with the exception of Pluton. As I said, we're not sure who that is or what that is, but I do believe that Pluton will be a special giant creature. But that's going to wrap up today's video. Let me know your thoughts on this, whether you think Loki is Uranus or is not Uranus. I do believe that a person is Uranus. Even if Uranus isn't Loki, I do not believe that whatever the world government is using as an imitation is the Uranus as the lore would have it be. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.